Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a Chevy Suburban and we're installing a 40-inch light bar. Let's get started. First thing you want to do is remove this latch. It's going to be in the way of us removing the top trim piece. So there's two Torx screws. It's Torx T10. So we're going to remove it and then the latch is going to slide out. Okay, so after you remove the two screws, the latch just pulls forward and comes out. I'm going to set it here because we're actually going to be reinstalling it after we take off the top part, because if for some reason you close the hood, you're going to have a hard time if the latch is not there. Next thing we're going to do is get all these push pins out so that way we can take off the top plastic trim. Let me get my pry tool and a screwdriver and get all these out. Push pins. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last one's here. That's number 9. Now that we removed all the push pins, we're going to go ahead and lift up on the cover and remove it. I'm going to go ahead and replace the hood latch, because if for some reason you close the hood, you might have a hard time opening it. You can always do it with a long screwdriver, but it makes things a lot harder. So I'll just finger thread it just so that it's on. Next thing we're going to do is remove these 6 10mm bolts. Next thing I want to do is remove all the Torx screws on the side of the fender. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that way we can reach behind it and separate the fender from the bumper. Feeling for the bolts that release the fender from the bumper. They're usually on this crease, either from the top or the bottom. So this is the first one, and there's 3. 1, 2, 3. There's 3 bolts that you have to loosen. They're 7mm. So keep in mind, we're not fully removing them, we're just loosening them. So that's one. Because when you loosen them, the plate that holds it together drops down, so that way you can reach over it. I loosened them with the ratchet. Now I'm just going to get a socket and I'm going to loosen them a little bit more with my fingers. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's easier that way. The main thing you're doing, there's a plate here. By loosening these 3 bolts, the plate actually drops down and then you can get that bumper on top. So let's see if this is enough. Oh, you actually press down and out. So a quick correction to the video: the bottom one you actually have to remove altogether. The top ones you just have to loosen, but the bottom one, the one that's closer to the outside of the fender, that one actually has to come out. So here, I got it out. Press down on it and out. So see, this one actually doesn't have an opening, and here there's just clips. So the outer one, the one closest to the outside, we actually remove, and these 2 we just loosen. Just pry this, pop this out. These are all clips. So the next thing I'm going to do, in order to apply some pressure, if you see there's a notch here, you're going to lift it on top, and then I just want to kind of work it lower. Alright, so little by little we're removing all the clips. So let's go ahead and do the same thing on the passenger side. Yeah, so we're removing the same 5 Torx screws that we did on the driver's side. Peel this back. And what we learned from the driver's side is that the outer screw that holds the bumper to the fender, that one we have to remove altogether. And the other ones we just loosen, so that way we can unclip. So this one has to actually come out. So make yourself some space. And this one's out, and the other ones are clips. So press down on them. Take the bottom one out, and these 2, when they're loosened, it just comes out. Just start working your way in, unclipping everything. Everything's held on clips. So if you press down on these tabs, on these clips, they make it easier to come off. Okay? Let me show you over here. There's the clips themselves. They have little tabs on top. You just kind of press them. You find the white one and come, let's go. All right, so we have a few more here. See? So this is the M&R brackets, how they look and the orientation of them. We are going to use factory hardware to attach them, so I'm going to take the driver's side. And the bolt that I'm going to take out is the top bolt here that is holding the headlight. On the bolt that we have taken out, I'm going to thread the M&R washer. I'm going to thread it through the bracket. And we are going to reinstall the same bolt. I am not going to fully tighten it. I want to thread the light bar in between first, and then we're going to do it. I'm going to do the same thing on the passenger side. Top bolt. I'm going to feed the large washer. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and install the 40-inch light bar. I'm going to go ahead and feed it behind the crash bar, and I'm going to use a supplied hardware, a washer and a bolt, to thread it onto the light bar. I'm just going to finger tighten it. Now I'm going to go ahead and reclip the front end so I can see if it's aligning with the openings of the grille, and see if we need to change the location of the mounting. Let's take a look at the location of the light bar. This is all clipped in. We do need to move it up a little bit. I'm going to remove the grille. I am going to slide it up on this rail a little bit more, so that way it'll line up with this opening of the grille. So we need to raise it a little bit. Now that you're happy with the alignment of the light bar within the grille, let's go ahead and take the grille back off temporarily. Tighten all the bolts, which is the sides of the light bar, as well as the bolts that we connected the mount to the vehicle, and then we'll start the wiring. I'm going to show you guys how to install this wireless 8-gang switch power system module. It allows you to install auxiliary switches if your vehicle is not equipped with them, and all the switches are controlled wirelessly. So let me show you what's inside. So it does come with various stickers, so that way you can identify the buttons you have. As the main power block, you get a wireless remote. There's a power strap that goes to the positive of the battery with an 80 amp fuse, and there's also a ground. So what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to connect these two wires to the box, connect the box to the battery, and then all your accessories are going to get power from the box itself. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go ahead and take the 4 bolts out on the side. So as you can tell, everything's nicely epoxied and sealed. There's a positive terminal here and a negative terminal here. I'm going to go ahead and take the positive. I'm going to feed it underneath it, and we are going to connect it to this terminal. So I'm going to loosen it. We're going to feed this here, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten it. We're going to do the same thing with the ground. Okay. All the wires go down, make them nice and tight. Excellent. So now we're ready to connect this to the vehicle. So what I like to do, make sure that the master fuse is disconnected. I'm going to take off this cover. There's tabs on the sides that you lift. And you can see here, if it's in line, this means that there is power going through it. So anytime I work on a battery, I like to actually disconnect the power. So I'm going to go ahead and press the button. This shows me that it's an open circuit, and we can go ahead and connect it on the vehicle. So first thing we're going to do is take off the cover from the battery, so that way we can get to the terminals. The positive terminal, so we're going to route it. I'm not going to take it off all the way, I'm just going to loosen it. We're going to route it going through here, and we can put the cover back on. So that's going to take care of the positive terminal for our power supply. So we're going to do the same thing with the ground, which is the negative side of the battery. You can also use any bolt on the chassis of the vehicle as well, but my preference is directly to the battery. Before we turn the fuse back on, let's go ahead and actually wire the light bars to it. So now we're gonna go ahead and wire the M&R light bar to the power distribution box. It's a single function light bar, so it only has 2 wires. There's a positive and a negative. There's over 6 feet of wire, so that way even after it's mounted, you'll definitely have plenty of room to feed it through the engine bay and connect it to the vehicle. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to find the circuit that I want to use. I'm going to use a 10 amp circuit, and I'm going to loosen the terminals. When you loosen them, we can put a wire in there and tighten it back up. So I'm going to feed this positive and tighten it, and I'm going to feed this negative and tighten as well. So since we're only connecting a single function light bar, you get to choose either white or amber. If you are purchasing a dual function light bar, it's actually going to have 2 power cables instead of 1, so you'll have to use up 2 different switches, because the DRL function also requires its own independent power. So now that we connected it to the 10 amp fuse, let's go ahead and use the remote and see if it works. So now that we got it connected to a 10 amp fuse, let's go ahead and see if it works. We are going to use switch number 3 for 10 amp. So there it is, shining through the grill. Now I'm going to go ahead and put everything back to factory and go for a ride. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure to tune in to watch our night output video, and I know you're going to love the product.